Balu Vargas.
How's it going?
What's up, bro?
Not much.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me here.
Tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
I'm the best. No, just kidding. No.
He's not wrong.
No. Eduardo Vargas, known as Balu. We met training together at Rise Above, one of the best gyms here in San Diego. Shout out to Shannon Gugarty. But yeah, man. Let's see. I own a promotion called Naciones, taking over Latin America little by little. That's the cockiness in me. I hardly ever do, but yeah, that's me.
Cool.
But yeah, man, excited to be here. Thank you.
So what is Naciones? Tell everybody, you guys might know the UFC, but,
Yeah, Naciones is a promotion that I launched during the pandemic. It was, I was actually doing a podcast in Spanish with a couple friends of mine. And I was interviewing fighters and up-and-coming fighters. More than anything, I was trying to give attention to Latin American fighters, right? Across the border and down. Not Latino U.S.-based fighters, but I was trying to get where the sport's growing. And so the more I talked to these guys, I was realizing there wasn't a lot of opportunities, platforms. There was maybe like one or two. One was very favorable to one gym. The other two, not so much. Not what I thought could be. I used to work for a previous promotion that was doing shows in Latin America. I didn't like what they were doing. I was with them for like 4 or 5 years. Actually, I consider myself one of the guys that built them. If they don't like what I'm saying, they kiss my ass. But basically, they know I fucking ran that ship. So when I left, I was kind of like, I don't want to do MMA anymore. I hate this. Like, they made me hate MMA. That's how bad it was, right? It's where I don't even want to do this no more. But the pandemic hit, and I'm like, man, I really miss MMA. It's like I miss all of it. And I started. I was lightly training during the pandemic when you could. And during the podcast, I was realizing there's nothing like that I like. So I talked to a couple friends of mine. Originally, it was going to be like 3 or 4 people that were going to launch this. Ended up being just 2 of us. My good friend Hector Molina out in Monterrey, Mexico. He used to own a league called Combate Extremo, which was like probably one of the longest running leagues in MMA. But it was a very regional league. And so we partnered up and we launched it. We launched it with absolutely no background, no funding whatsoever, just money that a lot of hopes and dreams of us thinking we were going to get picked up by a television network right away because I knew the business and I had been in it and it's a lot harder than I thought.
Right.
But we did it, man. We did good. We did 2 pilot shows. We were supposed to do 8 shows in 2021. We decided to do 2 because we came up on a contract with the Estrella television network out here they're based in the U.S. They're Hispanic audience, and so primarily Mexican Latinos is their primary audience, like Texas, California, Colorado, things like that. Not so much Miami, East Coast.
Yeah.
More like Puerto Rican, things like that. More of the audience. I feel it's more targeted towards the Mexican audience, and so we signed with them, and they told us to wait till January, and kicked off in January during the Omicron, which I think you went to the first event. You went to the first event,
yep, in Tijuana.
In Tijuana, and so we launched there, and we're going into our 10th and final show of the year, but we're going into show number 12 of the company. So it's basically a company that I'm doing where we're trying to bring attention to Latin American-based fighters. We've done shows in Ecuador, Colombia, all over Mexico. We're planning on visiting South American countries again, which is Ecuador, Colombia, Argentina, and Peru for 2023.
Wow.
So more than anything, man, it's like I'm not really looking to become a feeder program for the UFC. I'm trying to become our own thing. If there's anyone I could compare ourselves to that I want to get to is probably ONE FC in regards to where we're all supreme where it comes to, they're in Asia. We want to reign supreme in Latin America, right? And like I said, I'm not trying to compete with the giant. I know my role.
Right.
It's like me trying to compete with Gordon Ryan. I know where I'm at, it's like, but we're going to basically, continue to do our shows, bring the attention, get these guys, out there and get them the feeling of being under the lights and feeling that whole production type of event. And at the same time, providing good fights for people to know and learn the sport.
Yeah, and the productions are fun, man. Those shows I've been to 2 of them so far, and they're a lot of fun. The fights are great. They're exciting. A lot of knockouts, a lot of cool. Just the environment's awesome, and the fact that they're they're not in the U.S. They get a little crazy, a little wild, and I love them, man. The last one that we went to was really awesome. Those 2 girls that fought towards the end were incredible. Yeah. The whole show is great, and I think you're your harshest critic, because I thought the show was just amazing. Like, we showed up and we had a lot of fun, and everybody there was having a blast. It was great.
Yeah, I'm always going to be my harshest critic. My wife tells me the same thing, because she knew right away when she came in. She's like, oh, Balu's not going to like this. Right? That's something she told me. And at the minute I ran into her, because I was backstage or running around, and I see her, and she goes, you all right? I was like, yo, I'm not very excited about everything. She was like, everyone's having a blast. I know, but I'm trying to, I want it to look a certain way, because that's the expectations that I have for myself and for people that work with me. And I know we're missing a little bit of the money factor, but it's not needed. It's like, we can do it as long as it's just pushing certain things here and there. But I mean, it's not. It was some things were out of control that we couldn't do it, and also was for like safety issues of putting up lights or things like that, where we're just like, fuck it, just let's do it. But no, I love it, man. I mean, I like it. The people are having fun. It's always hard to start something. Like when I was with the previous promotion, when we started in Mexico, I had a lot of people kind of like Latin America MMA. What I mean? They were just like, this sucks. Yeah. This is before Brandon Moreno. I mean, Brandon Moreno was there, or other Latino fighters. I mean, you only knew Cain Velasquez or Gilbert Melendez, but they were all U.S. based, born, right? And so there wasn't a lot of guys that you knew that were coming from there. Now it's like a hotbed, and they're popping out left and right, and they're putting on exciting fights. And it's like, the Dagestanis are boring as shit, right? Like, they wrestle, right? They wrestle. They're fucking boring fights. I don't like bringing anyone to my fights. It's like, whatever. It's like, Latinos get down, dude. Yeah. It's basically boxing with MMA gloves. And they get down.
And that's the thing is,
I don't like wrestlers. I mean, I love wrestling and jiu-jitsu. That's I love doing that stuff. Like me training, I love it. On TV, it's fucking boring.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? It's boring.
You want to see knockouts. You don't want to see...
And people that don't know it, right? It's like, my audience is, your aunt, your uncle that have never seen MMA are going to come to the show. And they're going to be like, oh, shit. It's like, oh, they're fighting, right? Yeah. And what I always tell people is like, do you remember when we were in high school, when people would get, or junior high, people would get into fights and everybody runs to go see the fight? It's in your nature to want to watch violence. It's like, people like watching violence. You'll stop the car to watch a street fight. Yeah. You'll stop whatever the hell you're doing to watch a fight. And so when they go for the first time, they see it. It's like, I mean, my wife's family, they're the last people that would ever watch MMA. Right. They're there front row all the time. They're just cheering and they're liking it. And they're yelling things now. And they're like, use Cage, things like that. So it's cool. For me, it's great because it's a whole new audience that I know we are a part of bringing on board. Right. And it's a whole new thing that we're working on. And that's what I like about it. It's just like you when you discovered jiu-jitsu, you probably didn't know about it. Right. Or maybe you had seen it. Or you didn't know what it was exactly. Right. Maybe you watched fights and you didn't know what was happening. Now you watch fights. Even though you're starting, you know what's happening. Yep. You might not be able to do those moves. Yeah. Right? I mean, I watch stuff I can't do. I can't invert myself a certain way, but I know how to do it. But it's like, but you're watching it and you're like, okay, now I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so now this is interesting. Now I like it. Now it's just not two guys or two girls on the floor hugging it out. Yeah. Now I know what she's doing. It's technical, So it's like, I like that, man. I like the part that we're educating. Yeah, and that's the thing is you're educating a whole new market, and it's funny because both times that we went to the fights, we're in the cab, and the cab drivers they always say the same thing. It's weird because they understand boxing, and they go, "Oh, you're going to like a fight, like UFC, Balu.
Yeah, and they always say the same thing. They go, "Oh, some of them are fun, or some are nice, or something." There's something they say every time, and it's like weird, And Luis and Yesenia and I were talking about that, and it's just a funny common thing. But yeah, it seems like in Mexico, boxing is obviously so common and everybody knows boxing, but they don't really understand the mixed martial arts. And it's cool that you're educating a new market because you're literally creating a whole new market that doesn't know that they're going to love it. Yeah. And it's it really is the fastest rising sport in regards to popularity. We're seeing it with like every network has MMA. Right, Amazon has ONE FC now. ESPN and DAZN and all these companies have the PFL. They got Bellator, the UFC. Obviously, the UFC reigns supreme, right? They're like their own animal. Right. But at the same time, it's like you're seeing all these other companies, popping up left and right, and they're joining the networks, and the networks are wanting to have MMA. So it's cool. I mean, in Poland, there's like a huge company that fills up the arenas, like 50,000 people. In Italy as well, it's like I know fighters all over the world that,
for me, Ryzen, or formerly known as Pride,
Yeah.
is still my top promotion in the world. And there used to be a promotion in Latin America that I thought was better than Pride, but it was very under the radar. I'm trying to remember the name right now, but it was literally, oh my God, I can't remember the name right now. I remember the name, but it was my favorite promotion when it came to Latin America. You know, because they would do shows in Argentina, and they would fill up the whole arenas down there, and people were fighting. And there was guys that came out like Marcelo Rojo, who's in the UFC. You might not know who he is, but he's a pretty standout guy in Latin America. The guy that won the PFL, Trinity Cake. I'm sorry, I forgot his name right now too. So I'm terrible with names. But all those guys, it's like there's guys that came out of there that were just amazing, you know?
Right.
So anyhow, yeah, it's fun. It's fun just educating everybody and being part of that growth. Like, I get excited, bro. I get excited. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I am hard on myself, but I get very excited. Like, hell yeah, we're doing this.
Yeah.
It's like, and this is just the first year. We did 10 shows this year, 2 last year, 10 this year, and then next year I'm gonna do 10 to 12 again. And I think it's going to be better than it was this year, Yeah,
and I like what you said about in the beginning. You were like, man, it's a lot harder than we thought it was going to be. And that seems to be every business, right? On the outside, it looks like, oh, yeah, we just do this, this, and this. And then you get into it, you're like, oh, there's these problems.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest problems that you've had to kind of navigate to get around to grow as fast as you guys have been growing?
TV people.
Really?
Yeah. It's me working with TV. It's they're a whole different animal, man. They're like some of the most ruthless mobsters, legal mobsters I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
TV producers, networks, it's just, they're cutthroat. They're cutthroat. And it's like, what do you do? Like, half of them you want to throw to the wall. Like, where I'm like, I can fuck you up right now, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because you're going to take away my distribution rights, But it's like, but at the same time, it's something that you're learning. So I've had to learn a lot of the back end. Like, I've learned it all. I didn't go to school for any of this.
Yeah.
I learned it when I was with my previous promotion, right? It's like I learned a lot from those guys. It's like they might not like me. I don't care for them, but I know they don't like me because I'm the competition.
Right.
But I learned so much from all of them, every single one of them, right? And I think that's always important. Wherever you're at, always try to be your best wherever you're at, but at the same time, learn and become such a valuable asset that you can do all that stuff.
Right.
And that's kind of what I did when I was there. They needed someone to do that, I did it. Needed someone to do that, I did. I had no experience, but I was just like, I'll figure out a way to do it.
Yep.
Right? Because it comes from the martial arts background where I was just like, I had to learn how to do this so I can get to better. How do you do it? You got to do this, and that to get to there. But anyways, the hard part's always been the the lawyers or the TV spot, the all that stuff. Just bringing in all that stuff so that the company can keep going, keep going. And we're doing good right now. It's like, I'm complaining, but I'm not complaining. But but at the same time, it's been a learning curve. It's been very interesting, and I'm still learning, constantly learning. I mean, I had no idea, I knew nothing about satellites,
right,
or fucking fiber signals or things I knew nothing about that up until like last year.
Yeah,
I had to. You know what I mean? I was just like, what is that?
Yeah. And I can imagine that when you're running a physical promotion, right, where people are showing up, there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things that change last second. So you're constantly, I mean, I see you when you're at the shows, you're working. I mean, you're all over the place, making sure things are good, making sure everybody's happy. Like, that's got to be a lot to manage, but you do it so well. And how much of that comes from your jiu-jitsu background? And how did you get into jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I'll answer the first one. That part is, I just want everything to run smoothly, and it never does. But you want it to run smoothly as much as possible, and you have no control about what happens in the back. At the end of the day, you have no control over the human beings, right? So it's like someone don't want to fight last minute, or some guys are just like panic attacks backstage, and it happens. I mean, you're gonna go fight in front of family members against a guy that might beat your ass, So it's like. I respect them very, very much, all of them. But at the same time, it's like you signed up for it.
Right.
Right. So it's like, no one's holding a gun to your head. It's like, go ahead. You signed up for this. This is how it works. This is what you're doing. You signed a contract. It's like, things like that. So sometimes there's a lot of talking backstage or things like that we got to do. But other than that, it's like I'm always checking on the production trucks, the announcers. I'm listening to commentators, what they're saying. So I have an earpiece that I'm connected to the production, and I can hear everything.
Yep.
And so while I'm running around, and if I see certain things that cosmetically don't look good, I'll have it change right away, or things like that, or hurry up a fight, or if a fight ends too quick, we got to put in another fight to kill TV time, because I'm doing TV time, sometimes I'm like, damn, I should not do TV. I should just do just a regular show with no TV, not even streaming. Who cares? Just for people to come. And it runs like when it runs, it runs.
Yeah.
And now I don't have to worry about like, oh shit, 6:15, we're running out of satellite time or things like that. It's like that's the stuff that I worry about.
Right.
As for what was the other question?
So how'd you get into jiu-jitsu? Like what led you to jiu-jitsu? And for anybody watching, Balu is a bad motherfucker. So tell people how you got into jiu-jitsu and I don't know. I know a lot of people that watch this are interested in jiu-jitsu, but they don't really know maybe what it is or how to get started.
It was part of my prison sentence. No, just kidding. No. I got into jiu-jitsu. I have a cousin. His name is Gilbert Melendez. He was a multiple-time champion with Strikeforce and other organizations at 155 pounds. At one point, he was ranked number 1. And I was living in New York. I was actually working in finance, and I got into watching him. I thought he was crazy when he was telling me he was fighting in Lemoore, he was fighting in Hawaii or Costa Rica, things like that. I'm like, that kid's not right. He was wrestling at SF State, things like that. And I moved to New York, from New York to San Francisco. I was with JP Morgan at the time, and I got transferred. And I didn't get transferred. I asked to get transferred, and so I transferred, and I started going to classes with him. Like he picked me up, and I went to the classes, and at first I was like, okay, this is cool. It wasn't my thing, but this is cool. I'm just getting beat up, Like, but I also, at that time, I was like probably 25, 26. So I was also going out, doing my thing. So I was like, I wasn't very dedicated to, I'd go once or twice. They were super dedicated. But I wasn't dedicated. I was just like, I'll meet you guys later for drinks. It's like, that's what I was doing. Plus in that world of, when you're hanging out with people in finance and stuff, you're wanting to schmooze and go network and just BS, right? It's like, that's what everybody does. And you go to a cocktail hour and everyone's just like there. And, it was something that I wasn't looking at the bigger picture on this side. I didn't know about it.
Right.
I didn't know about the rankings or like what it does to you or how to help you. 3 years later, my mom passed away. It was in 2009. And I was kind of picking it up a little bit more. But around that time, I got really down on myself, like really depressed, because it was kind of like an expected thing. I was about 27, 28. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, do I drink? Do I go on a bender? Or what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. I was like, and I was angry too. I was mad. And I was mad at the world just because like, why? Why is my mother dead? So I started doing jiu-jitsu and I started picking it up. And the reason I love doing jiu-jitsu is because it took me away from all the problems that I had in my head about like my work, my mom passing away, like what do I do? Where do I go? Because one, I was training with some of the best people in the world at that time. It's like Jake Shields, Gilbert Melendez, Moses Baca, Danny Marks. It's like there was guys coming in and out. Ben Askren was coming in, Matt Wyman was coming in. At that time, if you don't know those names, those guys were pretty hot shit at that time. Obviously the Diaz brothers and things like that. And they were coming up too. Nick was coming up. Nick was already up, with Strikeforce Elite XC. Nate was coming up. Right? He was an Ultimate Fighter. He was doing all that stuff. Like, everybody knew Nate Diaz, but he wasn't the Nate Diaz that he is now. Right? It's like, at that time, it was like, he was young Nate Diaz coming up. And so, I drowned every time. What I mean by that is, like, I was getting beat up. Every time. Like, I was one of the guys on the bottom of the toilet bowl. Probably still am. But but I was drowning, so it would take my problems away. I was going away from not thinking about my mom not being there or my sisters or things like that or just being sad. But it was like, cool, I just got beat up and I know what's going on. And I'd talk for about 3 hours and then I'd go home and I'd think about what I did.
Right.
And I'd be hungry to go back again. And I quit my job. I came with my dad for a little bit. I actually trained in a gym in Tijuana with some guys that, we were all terrible. But we all trained with each other. And then I moved to Mexico City, tried to do financing again. I thought I was kind of ready for it. And I trained with a guy named Mario Delgado, who's a black belt under Renzo Gracie. He actually gave me my blue belt before I left.
Really?
I never told him to do it, but he gave me my blue belt before I left. And then I quit my job because I was just like not focused in finance anymore. I didn't like it anymore. The money thing I didn't give a shit. I mean, it wasn't something that was filling that void, right? And one of my best friends, I was working with my best friends, and he like took me into the office and he goes, hey man, he asked me some questions about the UFC and some other stuff, and I answered it like with enthusiasm, right? And I never forget, he goes, I think that's what you should be doing. He goes, you should be doing more like the MMA stuff because you don't answer the work stuff like you answer that stuff. He goes, maybe you should do what you like. And I never forget that. He told me that, my friend Javier Ramirez, and he told me that. He goes, you shouldn't do that. You should do something you like. And I was like, fuck, you're right. And I was kind of like, oh man, I'm letting him down too. Right? It's like I let this guy down because he kind of took me out of that, like, get out of that hole and come back to work.
Right.
You know. And so then I was talking to Gilbert and helped him out. Jumped on a plane, went to San Francisco, helped him expand his gym. Next thing you know, I'm working the front desk. I'm helping to teach jiu-jitsu. Jake gave me my blue belt. Jake Shields did. And so I felt even better now because I'm like, okay, cool. Now I got my blue belt from Jake.
Yeah.
Right? So then I started just running the gym with Gilbert, and I started teaching kids classes, which I thought was the best thing that could happen to me because it helped me learn jiu-jitsu a lot quicker.
Oh,
because you're talking
really?
to kids. Yeah. Have you ever tried babysitting?
A little bit.
Have you tried keeping a kid's attention for 15 minutes?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I know. I walked in on Shannon teaching the end of the kids class the other day, and watching that for a second, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine.
Yeah. Teaching kids classes was the best thing I ever did. You know, it's like, I don't want to do it no more.
Yeah.
Unless I'm at academy one day. But teaching kids classes was awesome because I had 15 minutes to teach them. And then we had like 35 minutes of playing around.
Yeah.
So it was cool because they were excited. We were having fun. But they were so technical. Like, they would pick everything up faster than adults. You know what I mean? Especially little girls. At that time, like, girls and boys are kind of like the same strength-wise until they get to like 11 or 12. And that's kind of when it starts, like, you see the difference.
Yeah.
But the little girls were like, I'd always be like, they're mopping these dudes up. You know, like they're mopping them up or things like that. So I thought that was always cool. But then I started training more and more. We didn't have any head coaches at El Nino. There was no head coaches. It was just basically Gilbert, Jake. They went to go see Caesar here and there, you know, and we'd stay back at the gym. But the whole team, the whole Scrap Pack team, that's where it originated, from Gilbert's gym, the first one. And everybody was self-taught. They were all teaching. And so he sometimes would be like, hey, dude, run the class. Right? It's like these like higher level guys were like listening to me. Because I just ran the class, and I've always had I've always had that leadership gene. I think I always have. I got it from my dad.
Right.
And it's like, it's all in your confidence.
Yeah.
Right. It's all in your confidence. And so he would be like, hey, help them do this, this, and this. And I'd be like, all right, these guys might tell me to go fuck off, or somebody's going to punch me.
Yeah.
And I'd start teaching. And everybody was cool with it because I was basically not telling them, this is what I do. I'm like, hey, this is what Gil said to do. Right. We're going to do this, and he'd like, and then start gradually learning more, and then competing and doing more. Anything, it's like, up until like 5 years ago, I finally left. But yeah, the teaching part's always been amazing. I loved it. I made no money, but it was great.
That's good.
It was great. It was my favorite thing in the world. Teaching.
But you said something important, which is the money and in the banking stuff in the finance world wasn't doing it for you, wasn't scratching that itch. Yeah. And you seem to enjoy doing the kids classes a lot more than you enjoyed the banking stuff.
I enjoyed teaching and, putting my body through the ringer and just like leveling up and being one of the best ones in the gym. That was like, for us, that's gold. Yeah. That's like, it's not, how can you say it? It was, I don't know, man. It was just something good that it felt great as an accomplishment that most people can't do it.
Right.
Right. It's like most people can do finance. Anybody can do finance. Right. Right. Anybody can do any job, but not everybody can get their black belt or their brown belt from certain academies. Right. Right. It's like, Shannon's a black belt under Dean Lister, who not that many people have him. Yeah. Right. And if you want to test him on it, he'll show you why he's a black belt. And, same with my friends, or even me. I've had people be like, oh, I'm not ripped or anything. So people are like, oh, you're a black belt. I'm like, yeah, you want to try it? Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I got one round in it because I haven't trained in a while. But things like that. So it's like, for me, it was like, not everybody can do it, know? But everybody around me was so, they were so motivated on getting to their goals that even if you don't want to be a world champion in MMA, you want to do good somewhere else. Yeah. So it pushes you because now we're all part of the team. The whole team's coming up, right? Yeah. It's like, I got guys that do, fitness. I got guys that do, they got their own gyms. We got guys that are firefighters. They're like captains. They're like, everyone's at the top echelon of whatever they do. Right. Because that's what everyone else around you does. And we're all black belts, and we're all this. And the black belts here, we kick ass. We're commentators. We do this. We have promotions. And so it pushes you, right? It's like.
And your surroundings too, I think, change a lot. You know, when you're surrounded by people that are at that level, your whole life starts to change. Mm-hmm. Just like when you're surrounded with people who are at a low level, you sort of gravitate towards the people you're around the most. And they say the five people that you're around the most, you're the sum of that, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to be somewhere in the middle of all those five. So if somebody's thinking about getting started in jiu-jitsu, but they're not really sure how to pick a gym, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of gyms out there that are kind of iffy, you know, and you don't know. I remember when I got in, luckily, I sort of knew Shannon. I had sort of trained with him before at TBC, so I had known of Shannon. I knew he's legit. He was in the UFC. Yeah. You know, like, cool. How does somebody pick a gym if they want to get started in jiu-jitsu?
I think just going and trying them out, it's hard. The first day is always hard, right? And then the first day is always hard, and whoever your coach is can make or break you. I've always said it's like you always want to make everyone feel welcome, right? It's like we want you to feel, for example, when I would teach, I'd be like, I want you to feel what this is like, which is like if you've never been, have you ever surfed before?
No.
Have you been in the water?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Have you been hit by a wave?
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like you're not drowning, but that's what it kind of feels like the first time. That's how I would say it's like, hey, it's like, at least for Southern California, right? Because we live here by the beach.
Yeah.
I was like, go stand in a wave, let it hit you. That's what it feels like your first day. I was like, that's what it feels like. And you just come back, right? And you come back. So it's it's being made comfortable, and then also what your objective is. Like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to do jiu-jitsu because you like the UFC? Do you like jiu-jitsu because you want to compete? Do you want to become a fighter? So I always ask people kind of like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your end all goal? Are you trying to lose weight? Or it's like, because there's different things you can do, right?
Yeah.
So it's like making it friendly and letting them enjoy it, but at the same time letting them know that, hey man, still violence.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna teach you to fuck people up. Is that what you're interested in?
Yeah.
It's like that's what you're gonna do. You know, it's like I'm a very strong believer that it's not for everybody. You know, a lot of coaches are all like, no, it's for everybody. I don't think it is. I think it's you have to have a loose screw in your head.
Yeah.
To be able to do this.
Right.
And a lot of extremists are really good at doing this. So if you're an extremist at doing some other stuff, when you come to do this, it's like you're going to get hooked in on it. Or if you're competitive. If you're competitive and you're just like, God, I suck. You're going to want to do it, you know, because this sport will keep you so humble.
Yeah.
That you might have gone to MIT or you think you're the shit or you're a CEO, but, you know, Jack the mechanic just fucked you up. Right. He's 30 pounds less than you.
Yeah.
And he's a hierarchy in here and you gotta respect him. So, you know,
yeah.
It's things like that it's like, it humbles you so well. So you see a lot of the networks are so weird because it's like guys from all different types of branches, you know, financially or socioeconomically, things like that, right? So what I'm going at, it's like none of that exists. You can't tell who's who.
Right.
You know, it's like you're either blue belt, white belt, purple belt. Everybody trains the same.
Yeah.
We all train against each other. It's like there's nothing. That's why I think that bond is so cool and it's so networking. And it's basically a legal form of being a gang member.
Yeah, basically.
You know, I mean, I got a tattoo here with this crap back here. It's like for no reason.
Yeah.
So, but I'm proud of it. Yeah.
So tell people what the belt system is like for somebody that doesn't know. You know, what's the journey from white, blue, purple, brown, black?
I'll tell you from my experience. My experience is because everyone has very, very different, right? So everyone's different. You're gonna have a different thing. For me, it's like white to blue was, you know, it was awesome. I felt like, okay, cool. And then blue to purple, I've heard a lot of people quit during blue to purple, right? I never once thought about quitting.
Yeah.
I never thought about quitting because I was like, I live here.
Yeah.
And I'm always here. So there was no point. I was just like, when am I going to get it? You know,
Yeah.
It's like, what do I have to do to get it? And for me, it was a lot harder to get it than most other gyms. Well, I got under Jake, which is under Cesar Gracie. Cesar Gracie is very hard to get belts on. So those guys are very hard to get them, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. And purple to brown belt for me was kind of when I was like a couple times I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't getting it, and they were making me compete a lot, and I was competing, and I was beating like brown belts, and I was beating like other guys, or other guys from other gyms would come in. There were higher belts, but we're just very rough at our school.
Yeah.
I mean, at that time, like I said, everybody was at their peak. So a couple times I was just like, man, he doesn't like me. Like, oh, maybe I just suck, you know. And then I finally got it. I got my brown belt, and it was like so cool, man. I was like, one of the most exciting. Like, you wake up with like flames in your hands. You're like, oh, you know, like, I'm tough. You know, I can kill anybody.
Yeah.
And And then brown belt to black belt was it was weird for me because I had to come down because my dad was sick at that time, and so I left a little bit before what I thought I was very close to getting it.
Yeah.
But I had to make the decision of leaving the gym and coming down to San Diego. I had to be with my dad and stuff like that because I was helping out my sisters and whatnot. So
yep. And you were in San Francisco.
I was in San Francisco, yeah, and I was doing great. And it was really hard for me. It was very, very, very hard for me because that's all I was doing for the last couple of years. So it's like I didn't want to leave. And I came here, and that's when I started training with Shannon. I mean, me and Shannon know each other since like junior high.
Yeah.
And his brother,
yeah.
you know, Brian, and which Brian, by the way, is fucking an animal.
Yeah.
He's just like me though. He doesn't train.
I've trained with him before.
He's an animal. Though.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't train as much, but he's fucking. Anytime he comes out there, he's an ice box, right?
Yeah.
It's like so Brian's tough, dude. But yeah, I've known them for a while, and so everyone's like, "Oh, we're gonna train." I trained at the arena. Then I trained with with Jesse Taylor, and then I trained with some other buddy with Barrett Yoshida. And then I was like, "Dude, I love training with Shannon. I think he's one of the best instructors there is out here, and I learned so much from him. And I can't beat him.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Very, very little, few times, but it's like I learned so much from him. He's so tough, and he's smaller than me.
Yeah.
You know, he's lighter than me. He's
right.
He's tall, but he's lighter, and he gives it to me. So I'm just like, this is cool. I'm gonna stay here, you know.
Yeah.
Until like if I'm able to whoop him, I'll leave. But I'm like, I can't. So so it's fun. But yeah, it was just a change down here, and but it was hard. But when I got to the black belt, honestly, that was one of the biggest accomplishments in my life. That I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It was literally the best thing. And I got it when we came back from Yosemite on a backpacking trip that Gilbert and I did with some friends.
Yeah.
And the second day, I got it, but we were all kind of hungover.
Yeah.
So we all had to train. We all trained, and before I left, they made me train, and I had to drive down, and it was the coolest feeling I ever had, because it was the highest accomplishment I had ever made.
Right.
No matter what, even like with Naciones, if I get it on TV, I'm on DAZN. Right, which everyone's like, I'm like, I got it on DAZN. I'm like, yeah, I planned for that. Like, I knew I was gonna go on DAZN. Like, I knew I was gonna get a team. Like, sounds cocky, but I was just like, I knew I was gonna get those things.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it. Right, one way or another, I was gonna get it. But the black belt, I didn't know if I was ever gonna get it.
Really?
So when I got it, that was my biggest accomplishment to this day.
There's a theme that I notice with you and other people that do good things is you're always either the dumbest or the weakest in the room. There's a trend in what we're saying where you are surrounding yourself with people that are the best. So you're like hanging out with the Diaz brothers. You're hanging out with, obviously, your cousin Gilbert Melendez. Yeah. But not just that. You're hanging out with some of the best of the best in almost every scenario. So I think that's why you do so well, is you surround yourself with people that are doing big things, and you're always, I mean, you've said it so many times, like, oh, they're better than me. I'm the lowest guy on the totem pole. But that's why you're so fucking great, is because you surround yourself with people that are good.
Yeah, I didn't do that in the past.
Really?
Yeah.
Before jiu-jitsu, you mean?
Before jiu-jitsu, before, like, when I was in my 20s, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. And my sisters are all, like, badasses, dude. Like, doctors, architects.
Yeah.
My sister Nora is a county supervisor here in San Diego. And so, they're my top echelon, right? It's like, they're smart. I was the dumb one.
Are they older than you?
Yeah, they're older.
Okay, so you got to watch that too.
I'm the youngest. Yeah. So they went to USF and San Luis Obispo and medical school and things like that. And I'm just like, fuck. I was like, I dropped out of college. What I mean? But it wasn't for me. And so my dad was an economist. He worked in politics in Mexico for years and things like that. My mom was self-taught to become a bookkeeper, like an accountant. She was at her job for years, and so it was always like, there was never no mediocrity in my house. It was always very like, oh, you're a fucking loser if you do that. Not those terms, but around that line. Yeah. Right. And so
high standards.
Yeah. So my dad told me this thing years ago when I was not doing very well. I was just kind of hanging out with guys and partying too much in early 20s, because up until like 19, I thought I was a jock. So my hopes were to play college football. That didn't work. And so I gave up on the jock life, and then I started drinking a little bit, partying. It was mostly partying. I never was like a hard drinker, but I was partying. And my dad told me one day, this thing in Spanish, it said, lo pendejo se pega, which means like pendejo's like an idiot or like a dumbass. It's contagious. Yeah. Right? It's like, he told me, he's like, it's contagious. So you have to pick what you want to do. It's like, it's cool you're doing all this right now, but those guys are going to be this, and this down the line. What are you going to do? Like, where are you going to go to? And so that's when I started like, you're right. And so I left Tijuana, I left San Diego, and I went to New York. And I started being with guys that were doing, like, I started meeting people that I was just like, oh, shit. It's not about partying. It's about doing this and this and that. And then San Francisco, like New York for me, everybody worked for someone, but it was like a badass job, right?
Yeah.
Like a cool company. When I moved to San Francisco, everybody owned their own company. Everybody did self-employment. Everybody was doing like, I do this, I'm in tech, I do that. I'm like, what?
The startup scene.
I was there. Yeah, I was there doing the startup scene. And so that was very motivational for me. And then with jiu-jitsu, I met all these guys. I was meeting VCs for the first time. I was meeting, like, you know, I have a friend, his name's Arvind Gupta. He's one of the most popular, you know, VC guys out in California.
Yeah.
I was training with him. I was training with some other VC guys. I got to meet, what's the guy who created Napster? What's his name?
I don't know.
The dude from Napster. Do you know? No? What's his name? Jesus Christ. I have it right here in my head. I'm terrible with names, I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
But anyways, like, my friend Dan Marks, who's a black belt under Jake Shields, under Cesar Gracie, sorry. He got me to train with this guy. He was the guy that created Napster. He was like part of when they started Uber.
Yeah.
Like we were like guinea pigs for Uber when
it's
they started.
It's not Travis Kalanick, is
No.
it?
It's they made fun of him in that movie, The Italian Job. I remember. Anyways.
Yeah.
But that guy, I don't remember his name right now. But yeah, so I started surrounding myself with all these people, you know, like, and that's how it's always been. I'm always also trying to hustle how I can network and help people.
Yeah.
I truly believe in the whole, like, if I introduce you and you, right, I hope something happens.
Yeah.
And if you guys ever meet someone that can help me, you send them my way.
Yeah. Right.
Right? It doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen a lot.
Right.
Because not a lot of people get involved in MMA. But I do feel that, for me, I create a network that I belong to because of that. And so I've always... You know, I'm a chatty Cathy bro too. I'm like, I don't shut up. So it's like
you're good with people, and you. I mean,
that's thanks to jiu-jitsu though.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think you were good with people before, or do you think, weird enough, did partying help you get better with people?
I was a party promoter here in San Diego. I was a party promoter with my friend Vince. Vince Delano. We used to throw parties here in the nightclubs in San Francisco too. I used to throw parties in the nightclubs during the week. To where like my boss at JP Morgan was just like, hey, listen, man, you're messing with my shit.
Yeah.
It's like, stop partying, because I'm like, well, how much money do you make? He goes, how much money do you make here? I'm like, well, yeah. He goes, why are you messing that up for this?
Right.
And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll stop. You know what I mean? He was right.
Yeah.
He was right, because I was getting excited with that whole thing. But that kind of helped me a little bit. But I thought the teaching part helped me the best.
Right.
Because I dealt with guys that would come in with the shoulders down, no confidence, like, you know, thinking about all kinds of bad stuff, from drinking to suicide to they were like on the edge of doing something.
Yep.
And so I learned to cater to everybody, and everybody was teaching differently. So we were teaching differently, right? It's like, you might be good at this, but he's not. So let me put him with him,
right,
so that he could help him, because you are terrible for him.
Right.
Like, when you work with him, you scare the hell out of him.
Yeah.
So he's going to leave. I don't want him to leave. So I'm going to put him with him, even though you guys go hard.
Yeah.
So it's like I learned to read people and talk to people, and just, it was, you know, it was great.
And you're good at it too. And I watch how, when you're in the gym and when you're teaching class, how when certain people come in, you can identify where they're at and meet them on their level so that they learn it, right? Because not everybody learns the same. And I think that's really, really important to identify how people learn and how you can get this message through to them in a successful way.
Yeah, they'll leave. That's what I'm saying. They'll get scared, right?
Yeah.
It's like, or, you know, everyone's there for different reasons, right? I've been there for different reasons.
Yeah.
And so it's, I know they have too. But you can tell too, the ones that are there to, like, you know, like college wrestlers. And,
yeah.
You know, but yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, when I met you too, it's like, I thought you were a spaz, right?
Well, I mean, there's no,
You know, when I went with you, like, Shan would be like, go with him. I'm like, God damn, I just got back from a knee injury. You know, he's going to kill me, you know? But it was things like that. But no, man, it's like, it's probably been the best way for me to learn to talk to people. And then I translate that into the gym. Other guys might not say it, but when you walk into a room and you feel like you can, like, fuck people up.
Yeah.
Which I probably can't.
Yeah.
But I feel like I do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm 42 now, bro. Like,
but you can. That's
no,
the thing.
But what I'm saying is, like, I think a lot of guys in the sport go in that way.
Yeah.
And you'll see them, they're confident when they sit down, and when you're talking to people, and it's like, you know, you know your shit, or it just gives you that extra feel of confidence. Not that you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You should by no means do it.
Well, and that's the thing is, I feel like when people start to learn this, and when you see guys like Shannon, these guys that can fucking tear somebody apart, they're more reserved, and it's kind of like the whole, you know, they're not being loud because they have it, right? They don't have to bark, right? But if it's time to bite, they can bite, but they know how to diffuse a situation.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what you got to do. I mean, it's like, you can, so you just got to let people know, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but ideally don't. It's just like, I walk away from stuff now.
Yeah.
People yelling at me. I'm like, you're right.
Part of getting older, I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, I've had too many beers for this stuff. I'm like, I'm not pulling guard on the street.
I saw this video of this guy walking down the street, and a guy pushes him, and he turns his head. The guy that gets pushed turns his head, and you see this just nasty cauliflower ear. And then the next scene is like him sitting on his butt and scooting towards the guy. And it's just like,
Yeah, no. I mean, nowadays it's just so dangerous, man. Like, if you asked Balu from 10 years ago, my dumbass would be like right there.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
No thanks.
You know what I mean? It's not worth it. I heard Jocko say something one time where he was like, the chances of something good happening are extremely low, and the chance of something bad happening are extremely high. So why would I play with those odds? And that makes a lot of sense.
There's a lot of cases where it's like, a lot of people in other situations, the guy hits his head wrong on the sidewalk or something. That wasn't your intention, but something can happen. So it's like, sometimes it's best to just walk away.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's like, it becomes to the point where they're not backing off and now you got to defend yourself, then, hey, it's green light. You know what I mean? I gave you plenty of warnings.
Yeah.
But that's in general. I'm not talking about myself. I'm just talking in general. It's a lot of the people in the community, you'll see them that way. Especially when you see them, like, they get recorded.
Yeah.
They'll be like, hey, man, like, calm down. I'm going to fuck you up. Stop. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They usually go that first, hands up. Like, they'll put their hands in the front. And then they're like, all right, I'm going to beat your ass.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's just not before.
Right. Yeah.
You want to train, just come to the gym. You know what I mean?
Well, Balu, where can people find you, and where can people learn more about Naciones?
Yeah, so Naciones, we got the last show of the year is coming up, sadly, but kind of thank God. I'm tired. It's December 8th. We're live on DAZN for English in the U.S. and on Estrella Network. Both are all available to get on apps, the app purchases on Estrella Network in Spanish. December 8th, and then tune into nacionesmma.com and follow us on our social media. Naciones MMA. It's Naciones MMA across all the platforms.
Yeah.
And as for me, I'm open. If anybody wants to train or wants to consider fighting or things like that, hit me up. Balu Vargas on Instagram. I think that's it. But yeah.
And if you want to fight in Mexico, definitely DM him.
Yeah, anywhere. If you want to fight, if you want to fight here in the street, I can organize it too. So it's no, man. I do think at one point everyone should try a type of combat sport, because it lets that inner primal, feeling out, and so it's good for anyone to try boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, capoeira, karate, whatever, any discipline. But it's good to let that out.
Yeah.
Right. And it takes you away, which I think you can experience. It takes you away from your everyday problems, at least for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right. And it'll help you network and build your friendships and stuff like that. But it also help your confidence, which I think is a huge problem with like mental awareness and all that stuff. And so I think this is combat sports. I always try to push on everyone, and at least try it once in your life. So
amazing.
That's cool.
Balu, thank you so much, dude.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man,
it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.